Hello, folks. Bill and Brian here with Energy Rogue, and we are in what is this episode 4, 5, 6? I can't keep track.
4, 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's
Pick a number, any number.
on refining reality, which is
That's right.
really important today.
Yeah, it's really sort of interesting because what we do is that we're trying to figure out if we're actually refining reality or if this is reality about refining.
Right.
So it could get it could go either way.
It could go either way. I mean,
So,
is
Brian,
it refining? Is it refining
it is.
reality?
Yes, at least it's not redefining reality where I spend most of my time.
Right.
So there's a few things going on in the world right now that's affecting the oil markets.
Yeah, and one of the things that we wanted to talk about today is that all of a sudden, over the last 45 days, every media outlet has become an expert on the Strait of Hormuz. I would argue probably 50 days ago that they didn't even know what that word even meant.
Yeah, they couldn't find it on a map.
Yeah, and so Bill and I know this area intensely well. I actually was right next to it in Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates in October, speaking on oil markets with Gulf Intelligence, who is based out of Dubai. And there is you cannot fathom how many ships there are on the horizon. And I got to see that image of just ship after ship after ship, realizing that each ship contained 1 million to 2 million barrels of crude oil. Now think about that. If crude oil is $60, you're talking about a $60 million cargo, right? If crude is $80, it's at $80 million. So it's each one of those ships is carrying a cargo worth $60 to $120 million, or upwards of 200 right now, probably. So one thing we wanted to talk about today is as we're looking at the Strait of Hormuz, this is not just about crude oil. This is about jet fuel. This is about diesel. This is about food. This is integrated into everything, and that's part of the reason that we wanted to do refining reality, because it is the bridge. Because when people talk about crude oil, they talk about supply and demand. They consider demand being refinery inputs. That's not the demand. You don't put crude oil in an automobile or in an airplane. It has to be refined into other products, and that's where refining comes in. So speaking of, I'm going to take the opportunity right now to mention our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by Tracer Co. They are a global leader in process diagnostic technologies and provide real-time measurement insights for the refining and petrochemical industry, helping you make confident decisions and optimize performance. Their technologies deliver accurate, live, and online data so that you can benchmark operations, focus improvements where they matter most, and catch issues early before they impact production, because that's key. And the result, you will have fewer shutdowns, lower costs, and the confidence to run your plant at full potential. And right now, I would argue that is incredibly needed, especially in the United States, because we have shuttered refining capacity. And typically, historically, we always operated about an 85 to 87% refinery utilization rate. That's where we were historically.
Which is pretty much a global average, by the way.
But where have we been over the last, I'm not even going to isolate this to the event, in 2026, what do you think we've averaged?
We have turned that volume knob up to 11.
11. It is 11. Shout out to Spinal Tap. I love that. So our refinery utilization from 85 to 87 has been ticked up to 90 to 92. This past week we were at 89, so it does fluctuate week by week. But part of the reason that the refinery utilization is up is because The United States actually imports crude oil from foreign sources. Um, Only 10% from the Middle East prior to the conflict. Um, we import crude oil, but we export over 1.5, 1.6 million barrels a day of distillates. Now, what are distillates, Bill?
Distillates are basically your diesel, jet fuel, probably a little bit of kerosene. You're
Mm-hmm.
talking about that range of when you refine something. Everything comes out at different temperatures. And so there's a whole range right there, depending on how you got your refinery set, that determines how much distillate that you come out with.
Yep.
And it
And
comes out of what? Hey, Brian, what does it come out of? What kind of vessels does it come out of?
it comes
A
out of
distillation tower.
a distillation tower. Okay, so words is good. That's something I use. My wife loves the English language, and I am a bad offender when it comes to the English language. So
I just, I tell people I don't create new words. I just create new definitions. So that makes it easier.
um, I've been accused of making up words. The first time I was called out on it, I said, they asked where I was, and I said, I'm at a point of confliction. And he said, I don't know if that's a word. And I said, it's not? He goes, but it should be because I actually know what you mean.
Yeah.
I,
Yep.
I
Right.
actually
And
know, I know what that means by the word.
yeah, it's a better definition of the word that you were trying to use.
Yeah. So anyway, but what we wanted to talk about is where we started prior to this. The globe was producing and consuming a little over 100 million barrels a day, about 105, something like
Right.
that. So, and to bring things simply, 105 million barrels a day was production consumption. Now, it doesn't always equal. It changes every day. It changes, and production consumption. We are talking about refining consumption because
Right.
on the other side of the refinery, then we have other consumption. That is consumption of gasoline, of diesel, of jet fuel, of bunker fuel. Bunker fuel is another component.
Right. Lower
Asphalts,
end of the deal.
yeah, and those are the ultimate demand products that come on the opposite side of the refinery. So when we remove 105 and take that down on the supply side to 85, what does that do to the global structure? So,
That's the reason I think you're seeing some of your utilization come down, because if you don't have the barrels to refine, your utilization comes down. So if there's fewer barrels coming through the refinery, your utilization will be down. Now realize the barrels that's been taken offline that from refineries that are in the Persian Gulf. And so some of those refineries are not being able to produce at a high rate. So when you start seeing world averages, you have to start saying, okay, is there somewhere in the world that's distorting the average?
mhm,
And so when you start seeing that, you have to sort of begin to be a little bit more nuanced. This is what we do here at Energy Rogue, is that we
right,
try to help you with the nuances and understanding why you can't just be a news commentator and look at the global average and make some sort of grandiose uh, statement about the industry without knowing what the nuances are.
right.
So it's like the Strait of Hormuz. Everybody says, "Well, it's oil, it's oil, it's oil." Well, it's oil, it's cargo, it's food, it's everything else.
It's
Still goes through
60.
that
It's
strait.
60% of the food comes in via the Strait of
Right.
Hormuz. Um,
That's a seaborne area, and I was telling Brian, I said I've been going through my head is like, okay, if this is consistently a problem, and it has been for decades,
right.
what does it take to solve that problem? How much of
Hmm.
this seaborne can we move to off to pipelines? Shoot, I don't know. We could be hauling but trucks. I don't know. That's a lot of trucks,
Right.
which would mean a lot of diesel.
Yep.
But trains, a train across Saudi Arabia through the desert. I don't know what it's going to take, but it's getting to the price that people start looking for the alternatives.
Yes. Yeah. And
So
well, and
price price
what's
drives consumer behavior, which is what we talked about in some of our other things. We talk about demand destruction,
mhm.
and demand destruction means if I don't have it, then I can't. I'll figure out a way to live my life without it.
Or the price is so high that they just won't. We had a great example of this where somebody that lives in a rural area had a worker that would come to their farm and do some work for them, and they would come twice a week. And with the rise of diesel prices, because he drove a diesel truck, he said, I can't come out here anymore. I don't make enough money because the diesel prices, when they went from $2.30 to over 4 to 5, I can't afford to drive this distance out there. That's an example of demand destruction. Or
Right. And you can see it by like what I call my Bill Shanahan indexes. And Brian, I know we haven't talked about this in a while,
oh
but
yeah,
the Snicker bar index is up.
which the Snicker bar?
The Snicker bar index is up by almost 10%.
Okay. And
So
refresh
just
my
let
memory. The Snicker bar is the Snickers to what?
no, it's the price of a Snicker bar at a convenience store, and that is judgment of where the economy is going. And
Mm-hmm.
so I use a Snickers bar um, economic index,
So
and
where are we at now? Where's the Snicker
so
bar?
I mean, Snicker bar index has moved up from about a 325 to a 349. So we're seeing almost a 10% increase in the Snicker bar index.
Oh, well, and that is one thing that we wanted to touch on. So when we reduced the supply of crude oil, okay, two things are happening right now. One is most of the countries in the Middle East are storing as many barrels as they
Right.
possibly can because they want to keep the crude oil flowing. And why do they want to keep it flowing? Because if they shut it in, there's no guarantees that the crude oil flow rate is going to match history. And that
Right.
means it
Or it's going
can
to cost a lot more
disrupt.
money to get it back on.
Yeah. And flipping it back on, it's not like your water faucet. You turn it off and turn it back on. This is a process. It can take 2 to 6 months and sometimes even a lot longer depending on the type of reservoir, and a lot of dollars to turn that back on. So that's one thing to consider is that they're storing as many barrels as they possibly can and probably making as much temporary storage as possible to keep those reservoirs flowing.
Right.
But meanwhile, in the consumption areas in Europe, here in the US, in Australia, in Japan, Korea, uh, China, they are burning through their stockpiles. They're using what they've previously stored. So, whenever this event is over, we will have a dislocation where we have so much supply above and beyond production and so much demand in the consumption areas that we're going to have a dislocation, and there's not going to be enough ships to do it, to
Right.
cross it.
We're still going to have the same delivery process. You
Yeah.
know, if you run out of water, it's not a big deal. But when you get water back, it still can only come as big as the pipe is.
So we learned a great lesson in COVID times, and that was we all got really good in the manufacturing consumption process on just in time inventory because people didn't want to sit on inventory. Well, COVID threw a monkey wrench in that, and the supply demand chain went through so much adjustments that it was havoc. Now we're doing that on the oil side. We're realizing the just in time inventory system doesn't work anymore because, for example, you have probably over 700, we're recording this on April 21st, over 7 to 800 million barrels offline during the course of this. The United States Strategic Petroleum Reserve is one of the largest next to China in the world, and they only hold 460 million barrels in storage, in stocks, in strategic petroleum reserve. So what that means is it doesn't matter. You don't have
Right.
enough, right?
Right.
The math doesn't work.
The math doesn't work, and everybody has a calculator, so they all can figure this out. And so the thing is that things will balance out because it does over time.
Right.
All these create different opportunities that people take advantage of to solve the issue. And once the issue is solved, then maybe we do that. And following your example of COVID, I guarantee you there are people still using toilet paper bought during COVID days. They bought so much that people will overbuy, and then it causes demand destruction.
I did run through our toilet paper storage inventory at the house. So
In how many
we
years?
it took a while.
It did.
It took a while. Actually, it was kind of funny because we went to Costco sometime in March of
Right.
2020, sometime in March, and everybody was talking about toilet paper, and we're like, okay. And we went to Costco, and all they had was like I don't want to say a pallet, but it was like a massive. And they had 3 packages of this huge, massive thing. It didn't fit in a cart. You had to get the special big cart to move it. And me and my wife, we were staring at it, going, "Well, I know they said there's a toilet paper crisis. All the small packs have been done, so there's really just this, but that's just too much." And while we were saying that's just too much, 2 out of 3 were taken, and we're like, okay, we'll take it. So
Exactly.
because it's like, oh, supply demand. Okay, I guess
Yeah.
we'll take that. And so we did have some
You ever
friends
wondered
that
about the people that when you check out with those little, they look at you like, "Are you having issues?"
we did have some friends that were like, we're running low on toilet paper. We're like, come on by. We've got you covered. So, but what we wanted to talk, and we'll kind of land the plane here, because the plane is a great analogy for that. When we're talking about this crude oil, 20% roughly of the global system is
Right.
down. And you can translate that to 20% of jet fuel is done, 20% of diesel is done. So people translate that, well, that means there's less trucks, okay, less jet fuel. A lot of the jet demand and a lot of the diesel demand, which falls in the distillates, is a process to move food from where it's grown, where it's processed, to where it's consumed, because those aren't the same things. Where food is manufactured and created and grown is much different than where it's consumed, and the bridge is from jet fuel and diesel. So
So
this
yeah,
is
so we
going to
need to keep
impact
those
food
Snicker
prices.
bars coming.
Yeah.
Need to keep those Snicker bars coming. I could care less about the avocados. Maybe you're more of an avocado person. Not me. Keep
Yeah.
the Snicker bars coming. Avocados, we can let it go. But the whole
Well,
the whole thing about this is that this is a system that's
mhm,
dependent on everything around the globe.
right.
Whether you like being a globalist or not, you are.
Yeah.
And so, and that's every country. Every
Hmm.
country's that way. If you're not a globalist, your standard of living is low, like super low, like tribal.
Hmm.
And so that's where we're at in this world. And so when you have an interruption like we've had in the Strait of Hormuz, then everything begins to be affected. And the longer it goes on, the more things are affected. We blow through the inventories, we blow through all of this. Then it takes a while to build that back up, and people will get tired of that, and they will find ways around it. And I think we're going to have a different world after this, only because we will figure ways to not be choked out again, because we're talking about billions of dollars have been lost on this deal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's a big underestimation on how much this actually means, on the global scale. And I still take this back to, I think we are like in March of 2020. We don't realize what's in front of us, the supply and the demand shock.
So
And
here we are
it's coming.
Here we are 6 years later from COVID, and we're still figuring out some of the things that have happened. And it's going to
Exactly.
be the same way here. It's going to be almost as significant as that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's as significant, but it's going to be pretty close.
Yep. Well, listen, folks, thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to Refining Reality. Do drop us a like, a share, and drop us a comment. Let us know what you think and what you want to hear about. So that's important to understand. And
And if you're operating in a refinery and you are tired of all trying to get all the various legacy systems to work together, give Tracer Co. a call. They can help you
yes.
out.
Well, because they can help your refinery operation and petrochemical operation run smoother, more efficiently, and increase your uptime, which is a very big component of profitability. So that is a very big, important aspect of it. And lastly, if you monitor energy markets, go to energyrogue.com. We do have some free resources that might help you, and we do have some products that can help you if you want to try and understand energy markets in less than 5 minutes a day, because it's not about the data. It is about the clarity of the market. What is the market saying, and what does that lead to in the future?
That's right.
Because then you can plan your business. So
If you find yourself being a data janitor, look us up. We can help you.
That's it. Well, listen, folks, thanks so much. We will see you next week. Appreciate it. This is Brian Bill with Refining. What is it? Refining
Reality
they,
or redefining reality. I don't know. It could be one a little bit of both.
I think we may have a spinoff show. So listen, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Let us know how we're doing, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to OGGN, the world's largest and most listened to podcast network for the oil and energy industry. If you like this show, leave us a review and then go to OGGN.com to learn about all our other shows. And don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter. This show has been a production of the Oil and Gas Global Network.